afternoon, everybody. We will most likely start a little bit late because some sessions before this one is also running late. So we'll just give a bit of time for people to hopefully come and join us this afternoon. Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. May we request you to start taking your seats? We'll start in the next minute. Thank you. And those who are sitting in the second row, we would like to invite you to take the front seat. Thank you so much. Just also to let you know that there will be interpretation in English, French, and Spanish for this session. And you will have these interpretation thing like this. Um, and you have the button at the on the left-hand side corner of the chair on the table. And number one is the language on the floor. Number two is the language is in English. Number three is in French, and then the last number four is Spanish. So just be ready because a few of our participants may be speaking in a language other than English. So again, channel 1 for the floor, channel 2 in English, channel 3 in French, and channel 4 in Spanish. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Farmers Organization session, which is entitled Farmers Organizations, Key Enablers in Transforming Food Systems. My name is Oliver Oliveros. I'm the Executive Coordinator of the Agroecology Coalition, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's session. This session will bring together producers, organizations, smallholder representatives, some people involved in policy making and financing to explore how producers, through their organizations, can actively shape decision-making processes, equitably access resources, and hold systems accountable. It will also examine the various contributions and solutions provided by farmers, building sustainable, resilient, and inclusive food systems. Key focus will be on what meaningful producer participation looks like in practice, including institutionalized governance frameworks, shifting from consultation to co-creation, farmers' contributions and solutions that they offer, including agroecology, and improving access to finance. By centering producers in the conversation, this session aims to identify actionable strategies that move beyond token participation towards systemic inclusion and co-leadership. So we are delighted today to be joined by a panel of speakers from different areas of the world. And I would like to mention to you that this session will involve two short rounds of conversations. The first round is with farmers and producers network in different regions and at the global level, so we can hear their priorities and their asks. In the second round, we will invite those involved in policy making and financing to talk about their views on how to better support farmers' engagement and their efforts. We request our discussants to be brief and direct in their intervention so we can have a Q&A with the audience here on the floor. So without much further ado, let's proceed to the first round. Our first speaker is from Latin America, Luz Haro Guanga, who is a farmer leader from a network of rural women of Latin America and the Caribbean. Welcome, Luz. Our second speaker from Asia is a young farmer from the Asian Farmers Association, Ivan Emmanuel Pineda. Welcome. We have from Africa, Elizabeth Semadala from the East African Farmers Federation. Welcome, Elizabeth. And we have Andrea Poro from the World Farmers Organization. Welcome, Andrea. All right. Let me ask you first the four representatives from the farmers' organizations in different regions. Briefly, in your context and regions, what are the key priorities and concerns that you would like to see addressed in our collective journey towards food systems transformation? What are the gaps in the food systems pathways in terms of themes and others, in terms of and topics and mechanisms that you think should be addressed in food systems transformation? We'll start with maybe Ivan.
Good afternoon. I am Ivan Emmanuel Pineda, a young farmer from the Philippines engaged in diversified aquaculture-based farming. I am a member of the Santa Catalina Multipurpose Cooperative, um, affiliated with the Philippine Family Farmers Agriculture, Fishery, and Forestry Cooperative Federation, and one of the 24 member organizations of the Asian Farmers Association. My farm activities include tilapia grow-out and fingerling production, fish processing, swine breeding and fattening, and coconut and banana cultivation. Recently, I began venturing into egg production with the goal of supplying our cooperative, which serves as a supplier to the school feeding program. For me, I was able to sustain farming because I am earning from different farm products. I have access to local markets. I have access to services through our cooperatives. However, this is not the case for many young farmers. AFA members held national consultations involving 660 rural youths across 9 countries. The findings were clear. We must preserve the trend of declining youth engagement in farming if we are able to build sustainable and resilient food systems. Rural youths are abandoning agriculture due to low income, insecure land access, poor infrastructure, and limited government support. Lack of youth-focused programs leave us feeling excluded and discouraged from pursuing farming. On behalf of Young Farmers Committee of the AFA, I would like to put forward following recommendations to help tackle the trend declining youth engagement in farming. First, ensure long-term land access for young farmers. For example, grant youth ownership, lease, or long-term use rights to farmland for a minimum of 25 years. Without land security, many young people will not see farming as a viable future in their villages. Second, create integrated agricultural programs for youth. Design comprehensive support services including capacity development, appropriate financial services, appropriate technologies, subsidies, and insurances. Third, prioritize young women in rural development. Fortunate, formulate targeted policies and programs that are essential in unleashing their potential. Fourth, support youth organizing and leadership. Support platforms where we can organize, share knowledge, and actively participate in policy and decision making processes. Farmers associations and agricultural cooperatives are effective in these channels. Fifth, improve rural infrastructure and ensure peace and security. Invest in roads, storage facilities, digital connectivity, and basic services in rural areas. At the same time, ensure social protection and for young safe environment for young farmers to thrive. And last, address trade-related challenges. Many youth farmers are struggling due to unfair competition from cheap imports brought in through free trade agreements. These undermine the local market and push young people off the farms. Trade policies must be reviewed to protect and promote smallholder producers and local food systems. In AFA, and as a young farmer, we believe that the power of organization and cooperation. Through our cooperatives and associations, we are ready to collaborate and take part in implementing these recommendations. They are not just proposals. They are pillars of a just, sustainable, and nourishing food system for our generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Ivan, for underscoring that function that with the future of agriculture, of food, is a youth. And without youth, then what future are we talking about here?
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Ivan. We turn to Africa. Elizabeth, what do you think from the African continent are really the gaps and priorities that need to be addressed if we were really to transform our food systems?
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. My name is Elizabeth Nsimadala. I'm a banana and coffee farmer from Uganda, and I'm also the president of the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation. This is a regional body that brings together national farmer associations and cooperatives in the 10 Eastern African countries, representing over 20 million smallholder farmers. Back to your question, in terms of priorities, I think it's a bit difficult to prioritize priorities in this era when everything is a priority. But what is important is to really look at the gaps that are existing and see how do we cross those gaps, be able to transform our agriculture and food systems. To start with, for the past 20 years since Maputo, our agriculture investments from most of our national governments are less than 5%. And then when you look at the reports by the Africa Development Bank in terms of the investments, the lending portfolio to the agriculture sector, again, it's less than 5%. But when you look at the lending rates to the agriculture sector, it's a two-digit, more than 20%. It's actually in most cases 24% and above. So I really don't know which magic that we are going to bring on board in the next 10 years of CARDIB, now that actually we are broadening our scope to embracing the food systems transformation. And by food systems transformation, it means we are bringing now everybody on board. The last years of CARDIB was mainly on the agriculture sector. But this time, we are bringing the health sector, we are bringing the transport sector, we are bringing everybody. Meaning that in terms of even the allocation, we need more than 10% investments. But we are not talking about that. And so, and again, when you look at the situation on the African continent, of course, most of the countries are struggling with debt distress. And also globally, when you look at what is happening, you know, it really affects the food systems transformation. So we really need urgency. We need to up our game. We need to see mutual partnerships being built. We need to bring everyone on the table and break the silos and see how we can pull together the little resources that we have and be able to invest it meaningfully to be able to create a greater impact. The second point in terms of what I would see as the priority is around the co-creation and the scaling. I think everyone is doing whatever we are doing in our own space. And we are also excelling in whatever we are doing in one way or the other. But these are just islands of success. So how do we profile these little successes and put them together and be able to put them to scale? What is happening currently is that most of the development partners are more interested in supporting pilots. And these are pilots of between 1 and 3 years. At the end of the 3-year project, when the project is actually gaining traction, When the farmers are trying to understand the project and trying to make it an investment opportunity, then the project is ending. And there are no resources for scaling. So all that investment becomes a white elephant. So we really need to see how we can move beyond the pilots to investing into scaling of some of the working models. I mentioned in the morning that, for example, at EF level, we have identified 52 climate adaptation cases that we feel can create a great impact. But out of those, because of the limited resources that we had, we were only able to profile 8 cases. And these 8 cases were presented at the SB 62 as cases that are scalable. So what we need to see is how do we attract investment so that we can even be able to profile the remaining 44 cases, so that instead of reinventing the wheel, then we are able to, implement those cases in other parts of other countries in Africa, but also other parts of the world. And then I would also want to touch a little bit on climate financing.
Last minute, yes.
Yes. On climate financing, from where I sit as a representative of farmers, it's a big elephant in the room. We are feeling the biggest brunt when it comes to climate change because we don't have any safety nets. And when it comes to climate financing, the farmers, especially smallholder farmers, direct access to financing is less than 1%. So what are we going to do? We really need to see how we can reform the financing landscape so that we get direct funding to the smallholder farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. It's not only a matter of making sure that resources are available, that they are accessible, readily accessible by farmers at the right moment, at the right time, going beyond project mode. You know, it's just like traveling. No? You attend a conference. By the time you have adjusted to time zone, it's time to go back to where you started. So it's just like the thing with investment, with the pilot mode. Let's turn to maybe in Latin America, Dulce. What do you see are the priorities or probably the gaps that need to be addressed in your region to make sure that we are really addressing food systems transformation?
Muchísimas gracias, muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Mil gracias por la oportunidad, por esta invitación que ha permitido reencontrarme con grandes amigos que han apoyado la causa de las mujeres rurales, como es el caso del señor Ferrero. Realmente para nosotras, las mujeres rurales de América Latina y el Caribe, es bastante compleja la situación porque entre los países latinoamericanos y del Caribe hay diferencias en políticas públicas, pero también hay diferencias entre la pobreza misma de las mujeres rurales, que si vemos en Chile es una pobreza parecida a la de Europa, pero si vemos en el Ecuador y sobre todo en la Amazonía, es mucho más profundo y difícil porque la situación, la carencia de bienes y servicios que dificulta una convivencia humana mucho más digna para las mujeres rurales. Por eso es que nosotras, desde la Red Latinoamericana del Caribe de Mujeres Rurales, venimos promoviendo las organizaciones de mujeres, que se fortalezcan las organizaciones de mujeres en toda la región, con la finalidad de que unidas podamos tener una voz más potente frente a los gobiernos locales. Caso contrario, pues cuando una sola mujer va o una campesina o un campesino va, no le van a escuchar. Pero si estamos organizados y organizadas, las cosas pueden brindarse mejores condiciones porque una sola voz no pasa nada, pero si vamos 10, 20 o más, 30, o el número que seamos, siempre será mucho más viable el que seamos escuchadas. Y lo digo yo porque he venido de ser una dirigente de base, que me ha costado mucho esfuerzo llegar hacia las autoridades para pedir apoyo para las necesidades más importantes de la comunidad. Nosotras, a lo largo de estos 35 años de historia de la Red LAG, podemos ver de que efectivamente en la ruralidad hace falta de todo. Hace falta de todo. no hay condiciones adecuadas, no hay conectividad. Ahora en esta era moderna no hay conectividad y si hay conectividad no hay los instrumentos adecuados que exige la tecnología y sigue agrandándose la brecha. Entonces, por eso es que nosotras venimos empujando desde la red LAC el pedido que se declare la década de las mujeres rurales a nivel mundial ante la ONU, pero hemos logrado hasta ahora, entre 2012 a 2023, que los Estados americanos, OEA, reconozca el decenio por los derechos de todas las mujeres, las adolescentes y las niñas en entornos rurales de las Américas, 2024-2034. Y eso para nosotras es un instrumento de oro. ¿Por qué? Porque si de los ODS no se están cumpliendo, se dijo en 2024 que apenas se llegaba a un 20-22%, creemos que este decenio tiene que servir como instrumento para ayudarles a acelerar el que se cumplan estos ODS, el 1, el 2, el 5 y todos los demás. Pero a eso le tenemos que añadir también el que nos hayan hecho parte desde el Programa Mundial de la Alimentación, que se declaró en Roma en el 24 de octubre del 2023 las directrices voluntarias a favor de la calidad y mejoramiento de vida de las mujeres y niñas rurales. ¿Por qué creer en las mujeres y niñas rurales? Que si las niñas de ahora y las jóvenes de ahora son bien atendidas y tienen oportunidades para quedarse en la ruralidad, van a seguir siendo lo que han sido nuestras abuelas, nuestras madres, las guardianas de la vida, las guardianas de la naturaleza, las guardianas del agua, las guardianas de las semillas, las guardianas de la producción sana y de la soberanía alimentaria. Porque una cosa es comer lo que me llegue y otra cosa es comer lo que nosotras producimos de manera sana, no contaminada, libre de híbridos, libre de transgénicos. Entonces, estamos buscando precisamente eso. Y en el caso del Ecuador, hay buenas prácticas en algunos lugares con las organizaciones de mujeres, pero también lo están haciendo en Costa Rica y lo están haciendo en Colombia y están intentando en otros sectores, en el Perú igual. De la red que tenemos, hay mujeres como en el Paraguay, que también están trabajando en el Uruguay, en Dominicana, es decir, las mujeres, y en Panamá, las mujeres están luchando cómo hacer para tener una vida mucho más digna, apropiada. Entonces, ¿cómo co-crear? Realmente es uniéndonos, haciendo esa gran fuerza a nivel de la región y quisiéramos tender el puente hacia Asia y queremos tender el puente, como ya lo hemos hecho, hasta Europa en algunos sectores, extender también esto hacia África. Estoy primera vez parándome en suelo africano, es la primera vez que a mis 76 años he podido llegar a este escenario tan grande para poder hablar desde aquí con ustedes, para ustedes y para quienes puedan escuchar este mensaje. Nosotras, las mujeres rurales, las campesinas, solo necesitamos oportunidades, oportunidades para poder producir. Si tenemos propiedad de la tierra, podemos accesar a los créditos, pero en América Latina, en el Ecuador, que es un país pionero, tenemos un 20% de mujeres con propiedad de la tierra. En Panamá, en Costa Rica, en El Salvador, no llegan ni al 3% de propiedad de la tierra. Y así pudiéramos ir hablando de los demás países. Y ese es un limitante para poder accesar a la banca. Y la banca, las bancas estatales, pensar en políticas públicas crediticias con créditos blandos, que son a largo plazo, a bajo interés y que no eliminen a las pequeñas productoras. Lamentablemente, en nuestra gira por toda la América Latina, hemos visto cómo han ido quitándoles los espacios productivos a la gente humilde para forrar de pino o de madera que solamente sirve para aportar a las chequeras de la gente que tiene dinero. Mientras que los pequeños productores y productoras han tenido que a la fuerza perder sus propiedades de la tierra. Y nosotras creemos que eso es injusto. Yo creo que el mundo necesita comer comida sana. Creemos que el mundo necesita tener agua. El agua no sale de los palacios de gobierno. El agua sale de las montañas. Y por eso es que deben los gobiernos volver los ojos al campo, pero volver los ojos con amor, con políticas públicas, ¿cierto? Que dignifiquen a las mujeres, que tengamos inversión en talento humano, que no sigan habiendo mujeres analfabetas como me pude haber quedado yo. Yo apenas tenía 4 años de escuela primaria en mi infancia. No, y yo tuve que acabar mi primaria pasado los 20 años y empezar el colegio a los 35 años para saber qué enseñan. Y esa decisión mía de querer aprovechar y saber qué enseñan en las escuelas, en los colegios y en las universidades, me ha permitido llegar hoy acá. Y ojalá traerles un mensaje para decirles, como les dije en Roma, no les dé pena poner millones de letras a favor de las mujeres y niñas rurales, porque quisiéramos que todas las mujeres y niñas rurales de ahora sigan siendo las mujeres rurales de mañana y de pasado mañana, para que no queden los campos vaciados como pasa en España. ¿No? Cuando yo he ido a Segovia, las amigas con angustia dicen, no hay mujeres pequeñas productoras y todo el pueblo se está envejeciendo. Y no queremos que eso ocurra en América Latina. Entonces, nosotras lo único que deseamos es que por favor los gobiernos dejen de invertir solamente porque creen que desarrollo solamente son las torres de cemento, que son buenas, por eso estamos acá, pero no se descuiden de lo que es más importante, el talento humano. Porque si hoy invirtiera fortalecer el talento humano de las niñas, no estaríamos hablando de pobreza después de 5, de 10, de 20 años. Se habría eliminado si es que eso hubieran hecho hace años con los objetivos del milenio, por ejemplo, ¿no? Claro que ahí nos enseñaron por lo menos a dibujar la firma para salir del analfabetismo, dijeron. Y así en el Ecuador sigue habiendo un analfabetismo del 17%. Y así en otros países. Entonces creemos que la primera inversión, ¿cómo co-crear? Co-crear desde las bases, organizarnos para capacitar a nuestras compañeras, para que sepan que hay derechos adquiridos, que abra el artículo 14 de la CEDAW, que tenemos unas directrices voluntarias. Gracias, señor Ferrero. Gracias, que la vida nos ha permitido estar juntos ahora acá. Yo quisiera que le demos un fuerte aplauso al señor Ferrero, porque él estuvo en el Programa Mundial de los Alimentos, por favor. Yo sí le doy un aplauso, porque me permitió poder estar ahí cuando aprobaron las directrices voluntarias. Y eso hay que seguir llevando a los gobiernos para decirles, tenemos estos instrumentos. No queremos llegar a los gobiernos de rodillas. Y tampoco a la fuerza, sino con propuestas. Y los acuerdos internacionales tienen que servir para servir, y tienen que servir para transformar, y tienen que servir para quedarnos, porque el conocimiento es poder, libertad y acción. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's really important to bring that. I mean, agriculture is already in a precarious situation, and think about young people in agriculture. And add another layer. If you were a young woman in the rural sector, that only amplifies the challenge that this sector is facing. And thank you for amplifying the importance of addressing that dimension. Andrea, I turn over to you from the World Farmers Organization. Does Asia plus Africa plus Latin America, all the challenges and priorities you've heard, equals to global challenges? What are we not seeing, and what should we be seeing from where you are sitting at the global level?
Thank you very much for the question. And allow me to start on who we are briefly. So World Farm Organization represents more than 80 farmers organizations and cooperatives from more than 56 countries around the globe. And when we speak about food system transformation, we must begin with a hard truth. Farmers are being asked to do two incredibly difficult things at a time: produce more food for a growing population while also reducing emission and minimizing environmental impact. At WFO, we firmly believe that farmers can rise to this challenge, but we can only do so if we, farmers, are recognized and supported as central actor in the system, not left on the margin of policy, finance, and innovation, has been better said by my colleague on my left and right before me. To truly transform food system, we need to focus on three thematic areas which are deeply interconnected. The first, producing more food more sustainable. What does it mean? Global demand for food is rising. Farmers are ready to meet this demand, but only if we are equipped with the right tools, innovation, technologies, the resilient infrastructure, and access to fair and transparent markets. Transformation cannot be achieved by simply asking farmers to do better. We need an enabling environment that makes better outcome possible and viable. Prioritizing nutrition alongside production. We must focus more on nutrition, not just on production volumes. WFO advocates for a nutrition-sensitive approach to agriculture, one that values diversity, promotes local and culturally appropriate diets, and connect producer directly to consumer wherever possible. Farmer plays a crucial role in creating healthier food environments but this requires integrated support across the entire value chain. Lastly, tackling food loss and waste. WFO newly adopted policy on this is clear. Food loss happens not just after harvest, but throughout the value chain due to poor storage, lack of market access, unfair grading standards, and inefficient logistics. Farmers want to reduce loss, but we need investment in infrastructure, cold chains, and local processing to make it happen. So, despite growing recognition of this challenge, many food system strategies still fall short. There is often a disconnect between high-level ambition and the day-to-day reality in the field. Farmers are too often expected to implement solutions that had no part in designing. This must change. We need mechanisms for meaningful structured farm participation, especially through farmers' organization at all levels, global, regional, and national. And we must never forget, sustainable food systems start with economically viable farms. Climate and environment goals are essential. It will not be achieved if farmers cannot earn a decent living from what they do for what they produce. This aligns with Article 2B of the Paris Agreement, which clearly states that efforts to reduce emission must not come at the expense of food production. And for me, just let me add, should not come at the expense of food producer. The path forward is not about choosing between sustainability and productivity. It is about achieving both. Farmers are ready to lead this transformation, and farmer organization along with them. We cannot do it alone. Let's ensure food system transformation is not just about frameworks and targets, but about the lived reality of the people who feed the world every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for citing those three priorities where you think they should be looking into and anchoring also the conversation not only around production, but making sure that we're producing food that is nutritious and healthy and climate resilient. Thanks so much. At this point, we go to the second round of our conversation. We wanted to turn over the floor to those outside of the producers network. We have initially invited the State Minister of Agriculture of Uganda and also the Food Systems Convener of Indonesia. Unfortunately, they are stuck to other meetings at this point because conversations are running behind schedule. Hopefully, they'll be able to join us. But while we wait for them as well, I'd like to turn over the floor to you, Gabriel. Just after hearing the three testimonies from regional farmers leaders and then one from the global perspective, what are you thinking? What are initial reactions and thoughts that are coming to your mind as you listen to the demands and the voices of priorities of farmers groups?
Thank you very much, Oliver. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the invitation. I'm very honored for being here, and thank you, Luz, of course, for your very kind words to me. Well, my first reaction, well, it's such a rich set of interventions. I took some of the messages that got my brain and my heart. Well, I will start first with the women and youth empowerment. Which were actually two of my key priorities when chairing the Committee on World Food Security. Luz spoke about the stronger voice and for women and the way in which small-scale producers and women especially are stewards of ecosystems and of providing nutritious food and healthy environment. And bringing this voice is one of a key element of transforming food systems more broadly. Secondly, and there are many messages I would like to underscore, but I will just need to focus on a couple. Elizabeth, you spoke about moving from pilots to scaling and from islands of success to scale. And you concluded talking about reforming the financing landscape. I can't agree more on the need of what you said. Maybe afterwards or during the debate, I could address maybe some of these issues as well. To you, Oliver, thank you.
No, thanks very much, Gabriel, for your quick reflections on this one. I'd like to turn the floor also to again to our farmer leaders. One of the topics that we would like to cover here is to make sure that farmers' engagement is not just very ad hoc. process. We've heard in several sessions that there has to have meaningful engagement, and for that meaningful engagement, it should not be an ad hoc. What would it take to move from an ad hoc participation to something that is more permanent or institutionalized? If we were to really, because food systems transformation is a business in the long haul, those conversations and those participations should not stop in one consultation and then that's it. How can we sustain engagement and meaningful engagement of farmers organizations in such hard and difficult conversations? I'd like to throw this question to you, Ivan, and maybe to you also from the global level, Andrea. Maybe we start with you, Ivan.
Thank you, Sir Oliver. We also have our women farmer representative from Cambodia. So I would like to pass the mic to Mrs. Mrs. Kalyan Sek, who, from the Regional Women Farmer Committee, and she will be talking.
She will be speaking in Khmer, but it will be translated into English after that.
Hello នាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះសិកលយ៉ានតំណាងស្ត្រីថ្នាក់តំបន់បោះអាខ្លាជាគណៈកម្មការសហគមន៍ដែលដឹកនាំដោយស្ត្រីហើយក៏ជាស្ត្រីមេម៉ាយដែលទទួលបន្ទុកចិញ្ចឹមកូន3នាក់ហើយរស់នៅក្នុងខេត្តសៀមរាបនៃប្រទេសកម្ពុជាបច្ចុប្បន្នគ្រប់គ្រងដីប្រកបកសិកម្ម2ហិកតាកន្លះហើយប្រកបរបរស្រូវធ្វើស្រូវដាំបន្លែហើយនឹងចិញ្ចឹមវ៉ាន់ទាការកសិករថ្នាក់ជាតិដូចជាបណ្ដាញកសិករនិងធម្មជាតិត្រូវបានកត់សម្គាល់ជាដៃគូសហការដោយក្រសួងពាក់ព័ន្ធផ្សេងៗនៅក្នុងការអភិវឌ្ឍនិងការអនុវត្តគោលនយោបាយនិងកម្មវិធីផ្សេងៗជារឿងមួយចាំបាច់ផងដែរនៅក្នុងការផ្ទៀងផ្ទាត់ផ្សេងៗដែលអាចជំរុញឲ្យកិច្ចសហការប្រហែលជា 40% នៃកសិករស្ត្រីដែលដឹកនាំក្នុងសហគមន៍ហេតុនេះពួកយើងតែងជួបការអនុញ្ញាតដោយការនិយាយប្រសិនបើស្ត្រីត្រូវបានផ្ដល់ការគ្រប់គ្រងល្អប្រសើរនិងផ្ដល់នៅឱកាសផ្សេងៗក្នុងការចូលរួមដំណើរការសម្រេចចិត្តនោះយើងនឹងអាចកសាងបានប្រព័ន្ធស្បៀងដោយនិរន្តរភាព
Thank you, Ivan.
Okay, for the English translation. I am Kalyan Sek, the chairperson of APA Regional Women Farmers Committee, a member of a woman-led agricultural cooperative and a single mother of 3 living in Siem Reap province. I am managing my 2.5 hectare farm with rice, vegetable, chicken, and ducks. Within our cooperative, we have organized ourselves to be able to consolidate and collectively sell our produce. As a woman farmer, we have unique challenges and also solutions. And many times, these challenges and many of our concerns are not included in programs and policies. Therefore, it is important to create space for women farmers to voice out our challenges and recommendations. This will make programs more responsive to our needs. Also, national farmers organizations such as FNN in Cambodia must be recognized by relevant agencies as partners in developing and also implementing policies and programs. It is important to allocate resources that will allow meaningful dialogue with farmers. Almost 40% of those involved in agriculture are women. So, we should have a say. If women farmers are properly given support and opportunities to participate in discussion-making processes, we can build a just and sustainable food systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It really amplifies the message that we've heard also from Latin America. Andrea.
Sorry. Of course, I mean, I quote and sustain what my colleague have said before. National farm organization and cooperatives for us are the center point of this dialogue. That means that can be the connector between discussion that occur between ministers that are not dialoguing themselves. For example, we are in the moment of the 3 Rio Convention COP conferences, the COP30 ahead of us, the 2 next year, the 3 next year again, and very rarely the negotiator of these 3 Rio Convention speaks among themselves. Farmer organization can be and should be brought around the table and help connect this part. But not only. Farmer organization and cooperatives were born out the need of farmers to voice their voice in a structured manner and defend and better access market. In this place, that's where also they can grow more if meaningfully involved. In advising and supporting the definition of NDCs and PSAP, we were talking about the Rio Convention, but also advising and being consultant for the discussion around the WTO space. Next year, we will have the ministerial conference in Yaoundé, Cameroon. It says a lot that we are here in this moment in Africa, and then again in Africa next year with the MC14. That says also that we are witnessing a challenge of the multilateralism. And farmer organization and their aggregation at regional and global level are still the stronghold of the multilateral approach. So they can help through the national, regional, and global space to make a circularity of this dialogue. Bring the instances from national level to regional and then to global, but then the role of the farmers organization and their aggregation at multiple level can bring back this dialogue and feedback at national level again. So like agriculture should be circular with the livestock space, which will also the national farm organization and their organization at regional and global can help the circularity of dialogue information to make sure farmers' voices heard. Last, also co-design solution and innovation, especially in research. With WFO, we're working closely with the research sector to different projects, which I'm not going to mention for the sake of time, making sure that scientists are listening to farmers to make sure that their solutions are grounded to the farmer need and designed together. That speaks then on access to finance, as has been already mentioned, I'm not going there, but the same can be said for access of innovation. So too much barriers still stay, and national farm organization, cooperative group, and then their aggregation at regional and global level can also help to break down this barrier. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Andrea. And then let's go on that last point that you've mentioned about co-design, etc. I mean, one of the things that we wanted to look now is we often hear that we already have solutions around food systems and agriculture, etc., etc. And farmers, smallholder farmers, those are the grassroots, indigenous peoples, local communities, are already innovating in themselves. They are sources of knowledge and inspiration. So co-creation is really an important element of this. So from where you are sitting, Elizabeth, and maybe also Luz in Latin America, what does co-creation with producers look like in practice? And how can it be embedded across food systems, policy cycles, for example, from the design to monitoring of those types of programs? Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think from where I sit, when you speak of co-design with the producers, we really need to see that you're walking the journey with us, right from the inception of the idea up to when the idea has been fully developed. But what often happens is that for quite long, we've had buzzwords, and I want to call it a buzzword because we tend to feel that it's been abused. When you speak about farmer focused, farmer targeted, farmer centered, for many years we've been hearing about this. But do you really mean it, or it's just courtesy? So we need to see the intentionality from the different actors when they say this is farmer centric by really bringing farmers at the center of whatever they are doing. We don't want to be brought on the table when the food is being served. We want to be in the kitchen. We want to feel the smoke. We want to be involved in putting everything together so that when it is time for serving, we all enjoy the meal. The other thing is that we really need to see formalization of partnerships. I think what is happening is that there is a lot of partnership that are happening in terms of joint implementation of programs, in terms of consultations, in terms of participation of the different farmers organizations. But this is not formalized. So can we go beyond just the informal engagement to formalizing our partnerships, so that each one of us understands what value they are bringing in these partnerships? You mentioned that we are custodians of the indigenous knowledge. But when we bring this knowledge into most of these consultations and engagements, that knowledge is not recognized. When someone writes a book, when a researcher writes a book, and you gather maybe some information from a certain, a reference, you always mention that reference in your research. But we've never seen any reference mentioned of any consultation or contribution from the farmers. So can we also be recognized for our knowledge, for our contribution that we are bringing in the co-creation? And then for quite some time, we've built strong institutions, both at the level of leadership and also at the level of secretariat. We have functional secretariats. We have leaders who can now sit in such conferences and speak for ourselves. But we have so many phantom organizations and intermediaries that are receiving resources on behalf of the farmers. So can we have those resources directed to the farmers, so that even as we talk about the co-creation, it's not about the ideas, but it also comes with the resources and the investments that are needed. And finally, we have a number of farmer-led innovations that we have in place. But again, it comes to the scaling. Most of the partners are not interested in scaling innovations from the farmers. And yet, we believe we are the source of primary data. Any data in the agriculture and food systems transformation should be a layer that is building on the primary data from the farmers. So we really need to be seen as contributing to the primary source of data, and whatever data that you are bringing on board should be building on what already exists within the farmer organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Luz. Luz, over to you. Your experience, you were telling me earlier during the break about this experience on biodiversity in Ecuador. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit more about this co-creation thing that you are doing in your country.
Bueno, realmente yo creo que para elevar, mejorar la calidad y condición de vida, no solo de las rurales, no solo de las campesinas y campesinos, sino de la humanidad entera, debería haber voluntad humana de quienes toman decisiones, voluntad humana, técnica y política. Ir combinando entre lo público y lo privado. Efectivamente, el sector público debería poner en el centro de la planificación, del diálogo, del análisis a las y los agricultores. Y cuando hablo de las mujeres rurales, además, permítame decirles que nosotras estamos pensando no solamente en las personas que están en las altas montañas, al pie de las nieves, sino también todas las que hacen el trabajo a lo largo y ancho de sus territorios, como también las que son recolectoras en los bosques o las recolectoras en los bordes de los ríos, de los mares, de los océanos. Todas nosotras, de una u otra manera, estamos contribuyendo a ese sistema alimentario. Entonces, por eso hay que apostarle, insisto, en el fortalecimiento del talento humano. Porque si tenemos un talento humano fortalecido, podemos leer más, podemos entender más, podemos ampliar el modo de cómo mejorar la calidad de vida, no solo para nosotras, sino cómo brindar servicios incluso en la comunidad, que se vaya generando, por ejemplo, el turismo comunitario, el agroturismo, ¿cierto? De manera que la gente de la ciudad venga a compartir la vida con la gente de la ruralidad y no que tenga, y además generar oportunidades para la niñez y la juventud. porque las juventudes ya no quieren volver a ensuciarse las manos, ya no quieren volver al campo. Y ahí tiene que haber un cambio de estrategia desde el Estado, desde los gobiernos, pero también nosotras desde la sociedad civil siempre estamos haciendo un llamado a que se mejore. Porque si la gente tiene mejor conocimiento va a poder producir y va a poder negociar incluso sus productos. Va a poder, porque somos víctimas de los intermediarios. Yo digo que los intermediarios asfixian a quien produce y a quien consume. Porque de la cadena alimentaria, desde que sale de la chacra hasta que llega al intermediario, pasa por 2, 3 manos y de ahí hasta llegar al punto de venta. Ojalá deberían los gobiernos locales generar espacios donde la gente que produce tenga un mercado directo, pero digno, y no que sean perseguidos y quitados los productos, como pasa en América Latina. Pero también lo que se tiene que hacer es precisamente cómo ir tendiendo esos puentes para generar ferias, incluso internacionales, donde nosotras podamos mostrar lo que estamos haciendo, ir dándole ese valor agregado a los productos de la chacra. Como bien ha dicho la otra panelista, no solamente quienes estamos sembrando, cuidando y cosechando, sino también que esos productos bajen hacia la comida, hacia los alimentos y cómo ir generando esa transformación de los productos, ¿no? Entonces, yo creo que el turismo comunitario, el agroturismo, es una de las buenas, digamos, estrategias como para hacer que los jóvenes no tengan que irse, sino que vuelvan e inviertan su conocimiento, porque ahora la gente estudia, mal o bien estudia en la ruralidad, hay menos gente que estudia, pero los que pueden estudiar, estudian, pero ya no quieren volver. Alguno que otro que se ha ido fuera del país ya no quiere volver al país. Y lo más triste, sí es, permítame decirles, que de la gente humilde por falta de oportunidades va a migrar no solamente a la ciudad, sino que está migrando a morir a las fronteras. Por eso es que yo creo que hay que tener estas alianzas estratégicas público-privadas y les decimos a los gobiernos que al menos a nosotras, a las mujeres de la red latinoamericana y del Caribe de mujeres rurales, nos vean como sus aliadas estratégicas. Y ahí les quiero contar que la CAP, por ejemplo, en este momento ya está invirtiendo en nosotras, haciendo el segundo estudio sobre la situación de las mujeres en América Latina en 17 países. Y de otro lado, apostándole a las escuelas de formación de lideresas desde el año 96-97. He hecho N números de formación para elevar la calidad de vida de las compañeras, pero también ahora la CAP ya está invirtiendo está contratando consultoras para llevar a cabo una escuela de lideresas desde México hasta Chile. Tenemos una pata floja, no podemos entrar en el Caribe porque yo misma no sé hablar inglés. No, por más que me he esforzado, no he podido hablar inglés. Yo alguna vez pagué un curso muy caro y llegó la pandemia y ahí perdí mi plata que quería aprender a hablar inglés. Entonces, son esas limitantes, pero creemos que la juventud, aunque no vaya a la universidad, que tenga preparación en su comunidad, ¿no? Para que pueda entonces quedarse a vivir ahí y no tenga que emigrar. Muy amable. Gracias.
Thank you. Thanks very much. These are important things that we need to address when we look at the future. I turn over to Gabriel, who's on my right side. I mean, all these things that we are hearing, I mean, resources is always an issue. And why do current funding systems seem to not sufficiently reach small-scale, smallholder producers? And how can we redesign them to be more, inclusive and more responsive to all the challenges that we've been hearing now?
Thank you, Oliver. And I may refer afterwards to the issue of moving from ad hoc participation or consultations to institutions. But why? You're asking why? Well, my experience, limited experience, well, funding institutions or systems usually find riskier and more costly and very difficult to achieve what sometimes called the last mile, which refers to small-scale producers, which is wrong from the beginning because it's not the last mile; it's actually the first mile. This is where everything starts, from where the seeds are sown, and then upwards. So they are, one of the reasons that they are not designed and governed to respond really to small-scale producers, at least at scale. And this is partially one of the reasons why producer organizations or the role of producer organizations is so important. It is to increase the reach and bridge between the financing institutions and producers. How to solve it is the question. Well, to me, there is one solution that is essential, an essential solution, which is including farmer organizations and representation at an equal footing, and it's very important in the governance of financing policy institutions and programs. This applies to all levels, at the local level, community, even local levels, to national, to regional, and to global levels. And well, the question is this feasible? Of course it is feasible. And I will use two examples at a very global level, which is possibly the most difficult space to bring farmer organizations and farmers, producers' voices at the policy or financing discussions. First is the Committee on World Food Security I had the honor of chairing. I mean, that institution was reformed in 2009 specifically to include the voices of those that are the key agents of food security and that suffer most of food insecurity and poverty. This was actually a difficult process where the countries, the governments, many opposed at the beginning, others struggled, and in the end it was made part of the institution through a mechanism that, of course, with its limitations, but together with a private sector mechanism that brought the voices of the private sector with a civil society and indigenous peoples mechanism that was mandated to bring the voices of civil society, but very especially indigenous peoples and farmer organizations, with its limitations, of course, as you can imagine. But this is feasible and it worked, and I can give my testimony as chairperson of that committee. This made not just the discussions or the deliberations, but the policy agreements and the outcomes completely different than they would have been in the absence of having farmer voices at equal footing at the same room. When I say equal footing is that except for the voting rights, and it's very rare that something is voted in an international governmental committee, they can negotiate as one other member state, which is unique in the United Nations. What comes from the Committee on World Food Security, those agreements are far, I emphasize that, very different of what they have been in terms of ambition, but in terms especially of capturing what is really needed by farmer organizations and small-scale producers. The second case, or the second example of evidence, is actually a financing mechanism where I'm serving now, which is the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program. This was set up in 2010, more or less the same days, and it was thoroughly discussed and agreed in the end that the steering committee of this fund, the board, I would say, included the farmer organizations' voices also at an equal footing. AFA, actually, Asian Farmer Organization, has represented for many years farmer organizations, ROPA from Africa as well, Mael, if I remember, was from Latin America in other days. Once again, I mean, this program was designed to bring direct support to small-scale producers, grew, is still growing in a very different, completely different way. So the instrument itself was co-designed and developed, including the voice and the effective co-creation of farmer organizations. This actually led to completely change the mechanism. Sorry, I'm elaborating a bit more on this, but originally it was designed to provide grants to governments, to public programs and policies, specifically aimed at reaching the poorest or the most excluded, and a bigger private sector window to finance bigger agribusiness. Across the years or over the years, the voices of farmers, farmer organizations at that steering committee moved the program to create, it was first a pilot actually, it's called the Missing Middle Initiative, which was an experiment on how to work directly with farmer and producer organizations. It was tested, it was confirmed that it was making a huge difference, and now it has consolidated as a third financing track. We have the government-led, the country government's public sector window, the private business, and the producer organizations led, this is the name, financing track. And this provides multilateral support directly to farmer organizations, national level or regional level. And this is an example of piloting and scaling up. And actually it was just announced very in recent days that is the third round of call for proposals for financing with 30 million. It's not a small amount, but it's a smaller amount than before. But this is, to me, is the good way to go. The evidence demonstrates that when your voices are really co-creating, it's not just a consultation, it's really creating, then the outcome of the institution, not just a concrete program, the institution is different. And the financing instruments can be adapted and it can be designed to really serve, even operationally, to the needs of really empowering small-scale producers and very especially women. I'll leave it here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gabriel. I mean, it's no designs. It's really by design, sorry, that we have you in the panel, because we really wanted to make sure that we are looking at examples that it is possible to institutionalize mechanisms for meaningful participation in the governance, and that if you do it right, financing can follow. And the example that you've mentioned is just a testimony to that. And there are a number of those financing mechanisms as well. We will open the floor for the next 10. We will have 10 minutes for Q&A, and we'll open the floor now for initial interventions. We'll call on 2 or 3. And then we'll give the floor to our speakers to respond to any questions or comments that you may have. I recognize Philippe, Francisco, and somebody from this side. Okay, we'll start with Philippe and then Francisco.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you very much to our esteemed session leaders today. And I very much want to build on the theme that Madame Luz was talking about, which is the need for building bridges, scaling up solutions on an international scale, building strategic alliances. I should say that my organization, my name is Philip Limbury, my organization, Compassion in World Farming International, is an organization founded by a farmer. I live on a farm. My neighbors are the cattle and sheep of my nearest neighbor. And we very much see collaboration and strategic alliances as key to creating enabling environments for sustainable food systems transitions. A food systems transition that is based on aligning with principles of feeding people first, within planetary boundaries, and therefore facing down the challenges to humanity of the triple planetary crisis: climate, biodiversity loss, pollution, and seizing the interdependencies by embracing a One Health agenda, that human health and well-being is interconnected with animal health and welfare and a thriving environment. In terms of taking that enabling environment forward, we very much stand behind the need for policy coherence, coherent policies that support and guide farmers and assist them in that transition. That there should be clear support through know-how, and that farmers should be fully supported in the transition. This should not be something on which farmers are victimized and left to pick up the pieces. Farmers are on the front line. They're the first to be hit by the climate and environmental impacts. And at the same time, if given that enabling environment, if given that financial know-how and policy coherence support, can create the solutions that can give us that food system that is based on feeding people first within planetary boundaries on a One Health agenda. So I would like to thank the conveners and ask the question really, how best can we build those strategic alliances to create those enabling environments? Thank you.
How best to build strategic alliances. Francisco.
Thank you. Just a quick question and a comment if it is possible. The question is the information that Gabriel Ferrero presented just now. How can we access if it is documented? It will be very important to have access to that result to that report. And the comment is co-creation has been one of the subjects that I've been researching, and I find this very interesting. The way we understand co-creation from the scientific point of view incorporates the same mind settings, because we can co-create something, two scientists working with somebody else, but the two scientists publishing, we are doing this on a scientific point of view. However, the co-creation that we are after is the process in which different ways of knowing coexist in a safe space. That's a critical thing. And for that, there is a principle that I'm going to present tomorrow in the Indigenous Peoples Food Systems Coalition, is that we scientists have to learn how to unlearn, to innovate. Thank you.
Thank you. It's more difficult to unlearn and relearn. That's a challenge. Last two comments, because we were told we need to close in the next 5 minutes. I'll take the lady next to you, Francisco, and then you as well. Please, very brief in your question and intervention. Actually, we only have 2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. My name is Agnes Tirabo. I come from Uganda. I work with civil society. And my submission in this session is that we should stop talking about the issues of smallholder farmers, of women, of the young people. I want us to leave Addis Ababa looking forward to the food system stock taking +6, having made commitments to have innovative resources and investments targeting these people. We should stop talking about their problems. We have talked about them forever and ever. So we need investments and innovative financing models that the women and the youths and the smallholder farmers are going to leverage on, such that when we come back 2 years later, we are going to be reporting on the dividends from such. I submit.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that point. And last comment, yes.
Thank you. My name is Arturo Condo. I'm the president of Earth University based in Costa Rica. I'm Ecuadorian, by the way. And just following up on what Francisco said, I do think universities should get involved. So yes, not everyone can go to the university. In Latin America, it's less than 20%, Africa less than 10% or around that. But they should be paying more attention to what's needed and not just publishing papers, to be fully honest. And so I just want to put on the table that it's not that some don't go. We should be more integrated universities with vocational training, with high schools. It shouldn't be a whole different world in the proverbial ivory towers. I just wanted to put that on the table.
Thank you. In the interest of time, we were just told we were running out of it and we will be kicked out soon. I invite everybody to make sure that as you go out, reach out to any of the speakers we have here and have coffee with them. And I'll just want to turn the floor to Irish Gillette for a 1-minute summary or last words coming from Asian Farmers Association is co-convening this conversation.
Yes, thank you, Oliver. I will not summarize. I think we've heard enough. I just want to leave you with few statements, and I hope that this statement will actually help, as mentioned, build bridges and really create mechanisms for meaningful participation of farmers. So we've heard family farmers are not just food producers, but are also knowledge producers and are solutions providers. And our organizations are our platforms for collective actions to improve our families' well-being, enhance our overall capacity, contribute to local economy and sustainable rural development, and participate in decision-making processes and contribute to transforming food systems. And I wanted to end with 2 positive words I heard today, which are it's possible, and farmers' organization are actually mechanisms to reach millions of farmers around the world. Thank you.
With that, thanks very much and have a good afternoon to all of you. Thank you.